like to thank everyone for coming tonight. This is the Freeholder meeting of February 19th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. Have the roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia. Here. Freeholder Fasano.
Here.
Freeholder Hertzberg.
Here.
Freeholder Director Patillo.
Here.
Freeholder Yardley.
Here.
Would you please stand with us for a moment of silence? And please join with us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In case you would like to read the resolution that we'll be discussing tonight, there are copies that are outside for you, right by the door. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of PL 1975, adequate notice as defined by Section 3D of Chapter 231 PL 1975 has been made by regular mail. Such notice being submitted on February 6, 2020 from the Administrative Center of the County of Sussex, located at 1 Spring Street, Newton, New Jersey, to the following: New Jersey Herald, New Jersey Sunday Herald, Star Ledger, WSUS Radio, and WNNJ Radio. And is also posted on the bulletin board maintained in the Administrative Center for public announcements and has been submitted to the Sussex County Clerk in compliance with said act. Could I please have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're going to begin with proclamations. The first group of proclamations I will handle at the luncheon that's coming up, so we can move forward from there. We have 3 Eagle Scouts, and their proclamations will be presented at the Court of Honor ceremonies. And we have 2 very special presentations. The first one is extremely special, and we're just happy to be a part of this wonderful birthday celebration for Helen Capozzi. It's her 105th birthday. And I know Linda Esposito is here. Linda, would you want to come up? Dawn is going to present.
A little bit about her when I
Sure. Okay, a little background on Helen. Helen Capozzi, who will be 105 at the end of this month, is the oldest client from the Heart Elder Care and the oldest client from the Heart Elder Care, and the staff adores her. Capozzi was born on February 28, 1915. Can you imagine all that she has seen in her lifetime? Amazing. And lived most of her life in Hamburg. She was the firstborn of 4 and has outlived all of her siblings. She married Gary Capozzi in 1935, and they were married for 63 years. The couple built the house she currently lives in. She and her husband ran a convenience store with 2 gas pumps in Hamburg and enjoyed serving soft-serve ice cream to patrons of the store. To celebrate Capozzi's 105th birthday from the Elder Care, the Heart Elder Care is helping her collect 105 birthday cards for the big day. And then they asked if anyone that would like to send a card, they gave you an address. So I think we've surpassed the 105.
We've received over 2,000 cards from 38 states, 2 other countries. It's been insane. I mean, Ellen is completely overwhelmed and is scared to death. So she doesn't want to talk to anybody. She doesn't understand what happened. You know, she's just, the only people that are going to be with her that are with me tomorrow. But that's kind of, she doesn't want to see anybody.
Well, if you're at 2,000 now, when we first heard, I have to be a middle school principal, and I have 300 cards from my students here for you. Wonderful. If you want to laugh, read what some of them wrote. I won't write it out loud, but imagine what an 8-year-old thinks when they realize someone's 105. So my staff got great joy going through the cards first. So our proclamation just simply says it's a certificate of recognition presented to Helen Capozzi celebrating her 105th birthday on February 28th, 2020. By order of the Board of Chosen Freeholders, Sylvia Patillo, Freeholder Director, Dawn Fantasia, Freeholder Deputy Director, Freeholder Anthony Fasano, Josh Hertzberg, and Herb Yardley. So we would love if you could present this.
We will be presenting her tomorrow.
Now, these are also cards from the county, which I can't say how many, but let's try to consolidate.
Okay.
And if we have any more, we will get them to you.
We have
Prior to
boxes
this meeting.
and boxes.
She'll be a busy lady.
She is going to be busy.
God bless her.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please wish her our best.
We will.
Totally love her.
We'll be also in the paper, we'll be recognizing everybody that has contributed to this, so you've obviously been on the list.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah,
too.
thank you
I'd
so
like
much.
to take a picture, and this thing is always in the way, so if you want to
Okay.
be on the other
There's
Sure.
an
side.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
She's very, very excited. Tomorrow's a big day for her. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing February as Career and Technical Education Month. And Superintendent Dasmala Votek is here to receive that, and Toby Riley is going to present it.
I think this, come on up here. I think this is what they gave me, so. I don't know, I don't know, they're saying something about our reading skills up here, I don't know. It's super large. I want to hand you this. This is the proclamation in recognition. Thank you. And I'm going to read it now. Okay. Still put on the glasses. Whereas the month of February 2020 is celebrated nationally as Career and Technical Education Month, CTE. Whereas this Century Career and Technical Education Program links vigorous academics, technical knowledge, real-world experience, and college-level learning to help students develop career-ready skills and to prepare them for post-secondary education with a clear career and focus. Whereas Sussex County Technical School provides a wide range of career and technical education programs for more than 800 secondary and adult students who reside in Sussex County and Sussex County employers. And whereas recent accomplishments by the district and its students include, very important, 98.8% graduation rate, 20+ career and technical education programs. All programs offer industry credentials, the potential to earn college credits and a degree while in high school. Whereas Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders takes great pride in the success demonstrated by the students of Sussex County Technical School. And whereas participation of local employers as county vocational technical school business partners is a key element in the success of 21st century career and technical programs. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of Chosen Freeholders of Sussex County that the month of February 2020 is designated as Career and Technical Education Month in Sussex County. Students, parents, and other citizens of the county are encouraged to learn more about career and technical education, Sussex County's vocational technical school programs, and the well-paying career pathways that can be launched with an industry credential and/or technical degree. And Sussex County employers are encouraged to become active partners with the vocational technical schools to align curriculum with their workforce needs and to provide meaningful work-based learning opportunities. By the order of the Board of Chosen Freeholders, Sylvia Patilla, Director, Dawn Fantasia, Deputy Director, Anthony Fasano, Josh Hertzberg, and Herb Yardley, Freeholders. I want to thank you for a great job you're doing over there. Thank you. audience note, but there's been tremendous opportunity for all of the students that are involved in technical careers, and they can come right out of the school and get a job very quickly and make some good money. We're happy that you've done a great job, and we're very proud of our teachers over there and our students that graduate. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say something?
Just, yeah, on behalf of the students, the parents, our teaching staff, and all the support staff at Sussex Tech, we just really appreciate the support from the county freeholders. You've been very supportive of the school, and this is going on my 7th year, and just we've had a great relationship, and I really enjoy working closely with you and keeping you up to date on what all the good things that are happening at our school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for what
Thank you.
do.
In front here, how do you want to do this?
Yeah, just a little over there.
Over this way? Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a motion to adopt the proclamations? So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we have 2 presentations. I'm going to begin with our administrator, Greg Clark.
You know, rarely do I get up for those of you that come to these meetings, but I did want to take an opportunity to be able to present to the board an award that the county has recently received from our insurance fund, which is a statewide insurance fund. And this is for a safety program award. It's very important for us to be able to have received this in as much as it shows our commitment to our worker safety, which is an extremely important thing. At the statewide insurance fund's reorganization, our employee services director, Christina Conklin, was recognized for her efforts of expanding out to our frontline supervisors their participation and encouraging them to participate in the various safety programs that we have for our workers. As a result of this award, we were given $300, which will be put towards the purchase of additional personal protective equipment for our staff. And another piece of this, outside of the safety award, was the insurance fund's award to the county for a 2019 safety grant. Interestingly enough, the requirements of the 2019 safety grant offered to the members of the statewide insurance fund was focused specifically on cybersecurity. And in order for the county to qualify for this award, we had to have over 60% of our staff trained in cybersecurity. And it was actually a course of 5 webinars that was distributed to our workforce, and I'm very pleased to report that we were able, by this deadline, to have 80% of our workforce trained in cybersecurity issues. As a result of having the staff trained, the county received $23,693 that was put towards the purchase of a security appliance to enhance our security of our network here. So I just wanted to take a moment to let the public know, let the board know that not only do we take our workers' safety seriously, but also the integrity of our information technology infrastructure and providing training to our staff as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please pass on.
There are a few seats up here if anyone would like to sit down, come out of the hallway, be a little more comfortable. There's 3 over here, 3 or 4 over here. Okay, we have another special guest tonight, and that is Richard Della from the DCA. He's here to present the findings on the contract services for inmate housing in Norris County. So thank you very much for coming all the way up here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Rick Richardella. I'm with the Department of Community Affairs, and greetings from the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor is my immediate supervisor. And we're here tonight to do a presentation on the inmate contracted service. I don't think anybody, can everybody hear me? I don't think I need the microphone, right? No? Okay, good.
You got the mouse. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Great. Normally, we work with two czars that the governor appointed, Nick Platt, who is a Republican from Harding Township, a mayor, and Jordan Glatt, who is a Democratic mayor from Summit, New Jersey. They weren't able to make it up here, but they normally come up for the presentations and when we do a shared service presentation. But they both had previous commitments in their municipality, so they couldn't make it up today. This is just the three people that worked on the contracted service with the Sussex County administration. I have to tell you that the administration was great to work for. Compliments to your administrative people who were very, very cooperative with us in getting us the information that we needed. My name, again, Rick Richardello. I got 40 plus years in law enforcement. I was chief of police for 26 total as a police officer. I worked for the Department of Community Affairs for 18 years. I was also a subject matter expert for ICMA down in Washington, D.C. And for those police officers that may be in the room, I also worked on the Camden County Regional Metro Police Department that they put together down in Camden, which has been a #1 success story with law enforcement. And recently we just did Lake Como and Belmar down the shore area on the beach. And I'm presently the Local Assistance Bureau Chief. And what happens is all the shared services, any municipalities who ask for help come into my office and we assign our staff, which are here tonight. Chris Ratz, who couldn't be with us, he's the one who did all the finances. And you can see he also worked with me down in the ICMA, born and raised in North Carolina, but he worked up here as the Roxbury manager. That's correct, right? Roxbury manager up in this area, and he's working for us now since he's retired, and he worked on the financing, the forecasting and the financing with regard to this project. And I have Phil Gonzalez, who's with me tonight, 25 years as a municipal police officer, 10 as a police captain, and he's worked 3 years as an investigator with auto insurance, and he's also worked with me in Atlantic City. Prior to me getting my assignment as the Local Assistance Bureau Chief, I was the point person for the governor's office in Atlantic City, and we ran Atlantic City when Governor Christie took it over. And Phil now is working with me as a public safety liaisons officer. So basically, the purpose of this presentation is to provide an impartial and comprehensive review of the principles of what we were going to look at with contracted services. Make up an arrangement between Morris County providing inmate housing for Sussex County. And this is not unusual. We have one going on right now down in Mercer County with Hudson. We have something going on down in Gloucester County. So it appears that most of the counties are starting to lean towards getting some help from neighboring counties to house their inmates. Desired outcome, to be fiscally responsible and operational sound, best practices to enhance Sussex County and Morris County in the inmate housing contract service. Facilitate better decision making, and the bottom line is that when we support these decision makers, the people in the administration up here, we don't say that one size fits all. We take a look at it, we look it over, and you'll see that in here it was quite extensive with some of the numbers that we came up with on the evaluation. In government, tipping points can occur surprisingly quickly, and in this particular case, it appears that it happened to Sussex County. However, in 2014, they had an evaluation done up here with regard to the jail facility, and they found out that's going to cost over $62 million to come in compliance with the Department of Corrections and/or the ADA. So they took it upon themselves after reading the evaluation report and started to do some work on coming up with the fiscal challenges. And I have to tell you, it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. And I compliment the sheriff, the county freeholders, and the administrator for being proactive with regard to mustering and courage with something like this. It takes a lot of guts. I'll figure it out how it works. So what happens is we got relevant factors. Obviously, when you're going to build a $62 million facility, it's going to impact the taxes of all people in the county. So taxpayers are concerned. We got increasingly budget issues and pressure on escalating demand for essential services. So that ends up causing a problem. And we have existing redundant layers in administration. So what happens is instead of having all these captains and lieutenants that are involved in this, we reduce them down, and Morris County ends up absorbing some of the responsibilities. And I have to tell you, you'll see it later on in here, some of the responsibilities are, you don't realize it, but you have to have a nurse, and you have to have a doctor, and you have to have an intake people. It's very, very important how many bodies that you need to run a facility of this type. What they've done is they've eliminated those positions, and they kept the sheriff's officers or the correctional officers on board to do the transportations down to Morris County, which is a very effective way of doing things. It also helps Sussex County remain within the 2% cap. That's important to maintain a 2% cap, because in today's day and age, people aren't getting more than 2% when they're getting increases on their salaries. So we're stuck now. So team building, we talked about it earlier about having courage, political will, and the willingness to, for the elected officials to make a decision. It's very hard for them to make decisions in these kind of matters. They know how it affects the employees and their families, but this administration stood up. They worked on attrition and soft landings for their people that were working here, so they did have the courage and political will to do it. The great thing about this presentation and working with the administration up here, it's great to hire a consultant and have them come in and do the report, and then the consultant walks away. Because I used to be one of those consultants that used to come in. I remember going out to Michigan and doing some reports out there. You do the report in front of a governing body and an audience, and then the consultant walks out the door and he flies back to New Jersey. But in this particular case, when you're dealing with New Jersey and you're dealing with our office and the administration, we don't only help you with the administration of doing the reports, but we also show you how to implement it. So you have to give the stakeholders, who are the elected officials, and the administration a little pat on the shoulder for sticking to this right to the end. So when you're doing some of these things, sometimes there's change, yes. Are these impossible challenges? No. You'll be surprised how residents raise some legitimate issues when it comes to some of these things and some of these concerns. Common challenges are establishing new lines of authority. That happens with the officers. Sometimes they have to speak to somebody in a neighboring town. Mitigating community impacts. Maybe somebody who's locked up may have to go over to Morris County to go see their loved one, and protecting the interest of the affected officers. And I think in this particular case, this administration did everything that they could humanly do possible to have these officers, through attrition and soft landings, find jobs wherever they could. So this was a 5-year capital plan for the correctional facility, and we were told that if they were to fix the existing facility, the first year would be $2 million, the second year would be about almost $1 million. In 22 it would be 3.5, and then in 2023 another $9 million, and then finally in 2024 $605,000, which is about $6 million over the next 5 years. Plus, in 2014, when the county did a needs assessment report, they found out to make this facility ADA compliant and to live up to the Department of Corrections compliances, would cost $23 million just to do the first phase, and then another $42 million to do the second phase. So again, they took into consideration the fact that how much is $62 million going to impact everybody's taxes in the county. And Sussex County, especially with the new bail program that came out in New Jersey, they cannot maintain an intact inmate population to support this type of funding. So again, not that I'm trying to tap on the shoulders of the administration, and it's very difficult for them to make these kind of decisions, but it's important that they did, because you don't want to be taxed with $62 million in bonds for the next 20 years. This was the proposed staffing levels for Sussex County Sheriff's Office in 2017. They had 101 officers. In 18, they started to dwindle down to 98. They started to push it in 2019 to, I think that says 83. And in 2020, I believe they're down to 38 officers involved in this. And I think, if I'm correct, Greg, you filed for a LEAP application?
Yes.
For the vehicles that you need for some of the costs, startup costs. One of the things that the governor has done is he put $10 million into a program where anybody who's involved in shared services and they have rebanding or startup costs, they can solicit from our office through application to recover those funds. So if we have startup costs or they need vehicles to transport the prisoners, they can get the funding from us, one-time funding, once they do the program. So the county would be eligible to receive some rebranding funding for this. I know this is a difficult graph to look at on the screen, but the bottom line is they're trying to show you here that what the capital costs are going to be, which you saw in the previous slide, what it would cost you over the next 5 years and how it impacts the budget. And it also shows what the different options are that they're using in this particular case. And by the way, all these numbers were submitted by the Chief Financial Officer for Sussex County, and they were worked over by our financial forecaster, which was Chris Ratz, that was the manager up in Roxbury. Here we go. So we have projections here on the savings over the next 5 years. You can see scenario one had, assuming that there was 15 female inmates per day at Morris, and then the second one was assuming that we had 75 inmates per day. So there's two different types of scenarios that they worked off of that came up with the cost savings on it. This was the 5-year anticipated cost savings. The first 5 years is 7.3 million. Then in 10 years it'll be 14, and in 25 years it'll be 36. So it'll be $36.5 million savings that the people in the administration saved the citizens of Sussex County by implementing this program. And that's just in their health care and their pension costs. So you can imagine how much it would grow with the shared services and the salaries. Decisions, I think we had some good communications here. You have to be creative. Standard model that we try to adhere to, that we use in almost all the towns. But one thing is there's no magic wand to secure any type of formula. Every one of these things has to be worked on. And I know it's difficult when you're trying to deal with the affected employees, people who are getting laid off or people who are being moved to another community to work. And you have to decide if this is the best option for them. And in this particular case, again, the administration saved a lot of money for taxpayers in Sussex County. Contracted service, when you do something like this, they have to set realistic goals, and I think that the county did. Select a problem-solving method. Again, those things were all done. Committed to open and honest communications, and I have to tell you, this is very difficult, again, when you're dealing with the unions, and you're dealing with personalities and people that are involved in this. And you have to have the courage and the political will, which we keep talking about constantly in this presentation. Our working group that we worked with were, of course, the freeholders when we first came up here to meet with them. The sheriff, who was excellent and understood the issue and his sympathy for his guys that were getting laid off. I was feeling for him with that. The county administrator and the CFO that worked with us, and of course DCA. We had monthly meetings or discussions with regard to this project that was going on, and I apologize that it took us so long to get up here to finally come up with the final product. Any questions from the audience?
Do you have this information on file form?
I can get it to you if you give me your email. I can send it to you. I'll give you my card. You can test me and I'll send it back to you. Okay. Any other questions? No? From the board?
No, I just thank you very much.
Okay. I have a little slight presentation for the members of the freeholders from the governor. Again. Come up, I'll read it for you. By the way, Governor Murphy sent this, and I think he thought Mr. Garvey was the director. I think the last time we were up here.
Do you want to come up?
No, that's okay. That's right. Probably because we were supposed to do this in December, and you had to change it. Oh, that's right. Right. Okay. So I hope this note finds you well. I was pleased to learn from former mayors Nick Platt and Jordan Blatt at the Division of Local Government Services and Community Affairs that you were entering into a shared agreement with Morris County to address inmate housing instead of pursuing costly improvements that would have required more than $60 million in taxpayers' funds. This decision shows how creative thinking and political courage can lead to outcomes that benefit both government and taxpayers, and I congratulate you on this agreement. Our administration is deeply committed to partnering with local governments and helping them develop shared service agreements to alleviate pressures on their limited budgets. Since appointed as the former mayors Platt and Blatt at Shared Services in spring of 2018, we have laser focused on finding new ways to support local governments. This support also is provided by the Local Assistance Bureau at DCA, which partners with the local governments and provides free consulting services, and recently announced the Local Efficiency Achievement Grants, which will fund shared services, innovations, and implementations. Thank you for your leadership on the government and your responsible fiscal stewardship. I hope that my administration can continue to assist you for future shared service projects. My very best from Phil Murphy, Governor.
Thank you
You're welcome.
so much. And I would just like to say that I greatly appreciate that you came tonight and very thankful for this. But your expertise in shared services and your guidance was greatly appreciated. You really gave us a lot of good information and really guide us in ways that we should move forward. So I want to thank you very much. And it's nice to have that type of partnership with our government, with the state. So we appreciate
Hopefully we can do more for you.
it. Yeah, well,
Get those grants in.
yeah, the grants are really important. I think we have a picture. You can't leave without a picture, so. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Director. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for all the hard work. Appreciate it, guys.
Am I related to the football player?
Young lady.
Say that again, say it again.
We'll talk.
Yeah, thanks so much. No, I get confused for the football player. And I made dinner reservations, they're woefully disappointing.
Would you have a great day?
Here I am showing up at 5:09.
I don't think you need us to hang out anymore.
No.
It's going to be really exciting. You might watch
I
it.
can tell you.
We're gonna be here a
I can
while.
see you.
Thanks again for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one? Sure.
Yeah. We have seats up here. I hope you'll come and sit down. might be here for a while, who would like to be comfortable. So there are seats on either side if you'd like to come and take one. I'm about to open for public session, and I just want to say that if you're here for the Second Amendment resolution, this would be your opportunity to speak before we discuss and take a vote on the resolution. I want to mention that last time when we were here and we had a discussion, I was very impressed with everyone's respect for different opinions. And I'm sure tonight, we're going to hear people that have very strong convictions. And I'm asking, please, not to make any noise, no boos or yays, or whether you agree or you don't, but just let everybody have the opportunity to speak their mind. That would be greatly appreciated. So right now, I need a motion to open to the public, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This also is your opportunity to speak on anything on the agenda, not just the Second Amendment. But we're going to hold the comments to 3 minutes so everyone has the opportunity to speak. And please sign the paper for your name and your town so that we can just continue to move on. So if anyone would like to start, please just come to the podium, give us your name and town.
I'll just get a motion to close the floor.
Go ahead.
William Hayden, Frankfort, New Jersey. I want to thank you guys for your support in this matter. I'd like to explain to some of the people what these resolutions do and don't do. There's some misconceptions. They don't allow for mental patients to have guns. They do not allow criminals to have firearms. They do not allow machine guns to become legal. They will not make current law void. They will not turn New Jersey into the Wild West. What they do accomplish is show solidarity of the citizens who own firearms in this county. They stand for the Second Amendment, and that we're not going to stand for any more senseless laws. We hear frequently that no one is coming for our guns. And why are there currently 200 bills in the New Jersey Assembly that make law-abiding citizens criminals yet do nothing to criminalize criminal action with a firearm? To shed light on the extreme risk protection order, which is a violation of your First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights. Under existing rules, there is a way through domestic violence laws to take weapons if need be. This new current law is subjective and allows for others to take their right without due process. New Jersey does not currently recognize the Second Amendment. Several Supreme Court rulings have come down that restore rights. New Jersey does not honor them, thus it does not honor the Second Amendment. To those who think I should defend myself in 10 rounds, it's called the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. How I defend myself and my family when the police are over 20 to 40 minutes away is my business. Furthermore, the Supreme Court has ruled that the police have no duty to protect us. And again, I just want to thank you for standing up for our rights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Frank Water, all over Jersey.
Have you signed in, Mr. Mayor? Have you signed in?
Can you speak louder, please?
That records only that microphone. So.
Frank Water, all over Jersey. I'd like to commend the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders for upholding the Bill of Rights this evening. First 10 amendments to our Constitution are collectively known as the Bill of Rights. Together with 13 through 15, 19, 24, and 26, these amendments form the interconnected framework of freedom for our country. What started out as an attack on the Second Amendment, the right to defend one's family and community, has morphed into an attack on the First Amendment, our freedom of speech, assembly, the right to live by one's own conscience, and to practice your faith. The Second Amendment recognizes a simple yet critical fact that in a republic we are citizens, not vassals. We do not look to the government or to the elites to protect us. The courts have held that we cannot hold the government responsible when it fails to protect us. That duty falls to us as citizens. We alone are responsible. And if we are responsible, the government cannot morally prevent us from discharging the duty they have bestowed upon us. That is why it is so important for our county and local governments to affirm the Second Amendment, to state clearly what it stands for and the responsibility it demands of all of us, the citizens of this republic. My personal and heartfelt thanks go out to the board and to all those spoken up on behalf of the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
very much.
I didn't sign in, but I guess I'm okay. Parker Space from Beamerville. I just want to thank the Freeholder Board for putting up the resolution tonight. As we said before, anybody sworn into elected office where you raise your right hand and say, you know, I respect or sworn into the Constitution of the United States and also with the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. I commend you for following up on that because Freeholder Board has definitely followed through. I think one of the things that we have to address too is in the state of New Jersey, and you see so many times in Trenton, where they're taking the rights away from the law-abiding citizens, and our Freeholder Board here in Sussex County tonight is standing up for the law-abiding citizens. The rightful gun owners are not the problem in this state. It's the criminals, as we said before, we have to go after. We have to lock them up and throw away the key, because there's so many times it's a revolving door. The ones that commit the same crimes all the time are back out on the streets, causing the issues, committing the crimes, causing murders, the rapes, whatever it might be. So I commend you as a Freeholder Board for standing up for our Second Amendment rights and the law-abiding citizens of the state of New Jersey. Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. I commend you for entertaining this resolution tonight. My name is John Rocco.
Mr.
I
Rocco,
live in
can you
Hope, New
please
Jersey.
sign in?
Oh, I will. So I'm a 32-year gun owner. I'm a member of Johnsonburg Gun Club, which is in Warren County, New Jersey. It's the oldest gun club in the state of New Jersey, founded 65 years ago. I strongly support the Second Amendment, and every gun owner that's standing in this hall tonight, every time a bad action happens with a gun, the only people that are persecuted is the law-abiding citizens sitting right here. And we will do whatever it takes to keep our guns, bear our arms. We'll do background checks. We'll keep doing them and doing them and doing them. But I strongly ask you guys to vote yes on this resolution, and thank you for your support.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Austin Neary from Green Township, and I just want to thank the Freeholders for the dedication and the time they put into their job, as well as giving us the opportunity tonight to speak. I'm a pro-Second Amendment, and I'm a pro-supporter of Sussex County becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary county. I'm an investment advisor. I'm a gun owner. I belong to two ranges, RTSP in Randolph, and I belong to Shotgun Range as well. And I'm a national gun safety range officer. What I've done though is I know the time's limited, so I spent time looking at, and I put together research tonight for anyone who may be on the fence. And you know, we come here assuming that you know everything about guns and are as dedicated about guns as we are. But there's a number of things that I did study, and I did extensive study, and I took a look at research from Pew Research, the CDC, Governor Murphy's task force, as well as the FBI. And I'd like to present this, since I only have 3 minutes, for anyone who's on the fence. But what it does is it goes over a couple of things. One of them is a concept called comparative advantage. And what that does is it puts people like us, or somebody my age, and it gives me an advantage over being assaulted by younger people, or mob-oriented, or a situation where I just don't have the same force or energy that I had years ago. So I think that's an important concept to understand. The other thing this does is it breaks down gun violence by demographics. And it also takes a look at, you know, one of the greatest things about where we see the violence, it's not just in minority communities, it can be in very poor communities, uneducated communities, and I think that's an important thing to see here. It also takes a look at New Jersey, and it takes a look at the number of homicides. How many homicides with gun-related deaths were done through self-defense, how many were police-oriented, and how many were suicide. And I think one of the things that this body has to understand is the danger of suicide, gun-related suicides, and what's worse is if you take a look at the New Jersey numbers, there were 478 firearm deaths in 2017, 352 of them were homicides, yet the number of opioid overdoses were 2,685. So I think what we have to do is not only take a look at the seriousness of gun-related laws, but we have to take a look at what the other situations are. it breaks it down as well into different areas. It takes a look at counties and the number of homicides by county. And I can tell you that the counties over here on the small side are Sussex, Warren, Huntington, Morris County. So I think we need to take a look at that. And then finally, it takes a look at the type of firearms that we use. And I think it's important to understand that not every black gun is a danger gun, and we need to keep that in consideration. And then finally, I know that you have a really, really difficult situation, because it's easy for me as a gun owner to say, be a sanctuary county, you have to be. But you have to answer to other people that may not have the same opinion that I do. And the last paragraph may give you a narrative that may be able to support what I believe is a proper way to vote in to make us into a Second Amendment sanctuary county. So I don't know if I could read this with somebody.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We get copies of that.
Yeah, I'd like to have
Hi, I'm Jocelyn from Frankfurt. I just was actually just looking up some statistics about women and firearm ownership. It is back in 2005, there was only 15% of women who owned firearms, and now in 2000, and now it's 23%. And I happen to be one of them, and actually very proud to be a woman who has a firearm and who is able to protect myself and my family and animals. And I refuse to be a victim. So I have my firearms, I feel safe, I feel confident with them, and I feel that New Jersey could recognize the Second Amendment so more women can be empowered to have firearms and to protect themselves and their families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wendy Gecker. I'm from Wantage. I'm a legal firearms owner, and touching on some of the things that Jocelyn touched on, I feel that firearms are the great equalizer. And as a woman, I appreciate, that I'm able to defend myself if I need to. And I want to thank you guys for putting this resolution forth.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dominic, and I'm from Lafayette. Over the last month or so, I've been attending town and county meetings to shine light on how the state of New Jersey has been infringing on the rights of their citizens. I've witnessed a ton of other people showing up to reinforce the same thing. On the other hand, I have seen some people showing up to support the state's tyranny. We have heard claims that the elected state politicians have rightfully passed these laws and that we should not question their intent, but to just stay silent and comply. They claim that by entertaining support for our Second Amendment rights, that we are undermining and even sidestepping state law. Nothing is further from the truth. The resolutions that have been passing all over the state supporting our Second Amendment rights do not bypass state law. Now that we are on the subject of overstepping boundaries of authority, we need not look further than our own state politicians. They believe they can ignore federal laws they don't like and aid and abet criminal legal aliens. They believe they can pass laws that take away citizens' constitutional rights. The Attorney General stated that New Jersey state law should be clear. Private citizens should not be able to carry weapons based on a mere generalized fear. This statement makes New Jersey's intent clear. They have banned their citizens from exercising their rights because they do not think they should be able to. They do not want us to be able to defend ourselves. The definition of bear means to carry. The idea that our right to bear arms ends at our property lines is absolutely absurd. The state has been passing laws that make law-abiding citizens criminals at the flick of a pen without even notifying them. Has anyone considered the unfortunate people who legally purchase firearms that come from the factory with magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds, they may not even know they are currently breaking the law. Nobody can expect all the citizens of New Jersey to automatically know the changes in the ever-evolving laws, especially laws that clearly violate their rights and make criminals out of them at the same time. There has been some talk about how citizens carrying guns in public would lead to chaos. The truth is, we do not see chaos when traveling outside of New Jersey's borders, where free people can and do exercise their right to bear arms. New Jersey law requires that a person who is eligible to carry a firearm in public must be a person of good character and also has demonstrated he or she is familiar with the safe handling and use of handguns. We should not fear our fellow law-abiding citizens. We should only fear the criminals who do not and will not follow the law. I have heard that the people who advocate for our gun rights are extreme gun enthusiasts who do not care about gun safety. This is not true. We care about gun safety. In fact, I cannot name one pro-gun group that isn't opposed to the reckless handling of firearms. Every pro-gun group wants people to be safe with their firearms. If we truly want to make a dent in gun-related tragedies anywhere in the world, then people should stop spreading false information and start advocating for gun rights safety programs in our schools. Can I finish that? This would reduce the amount of people, including children, with no firearm safety knowledge, so when they come into contact with them, they do not make the mistakes that accidentally take lives. The Soviet Union, Turkey, Germany, China, Guatemala, Uganda, and Cambodia are all examples of places that implemented gun control in the name of public safety, only to later confiscate them. Eventually, with ease, they exterminated more than 56 million unarmed people. They all needed an excuse to take the guns from the public in order to be able to assume control with limited resistance. It would be very naive to assume that this could never happen here. What's going to stop it? Our Constitution that's already being ignored on a daily basis? Gun control isn't about controlling guns. It isn't about public safety. It's about controlling people. If we do not learn from the mistakes of the past, we are doomed to repeat them. Ignorance is our biggest enemy here in the United States. Let's hope that the people here start paying attention before it is too late.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Clearly the subject matter evokes strong feelings and I think perhaps some misunderstandings. I'd like to believe that there may be more we can agree to than we realize. Something that struck me in reading this resolution is that it did sound different from the other Second Amendment resolutions I've read up until this point. The emphasis in this resolution is protecting Second Amendment rights for law-abiding citizens. Whether one believes the Second Amendment needs protection or not, protecting rights in and of itself is rather reasonable. Additionally, the way that I read the resolution, it does leave room for understanding extended to those of us that work in prevention and are seeking to protect Sussex County residents from non-law-abiding citizens. In prevention for homicide or suicide, one of the first steps we take is to restrict access to lethal means, and that does include firearms. That is done to protect the individual from themselves or others. No one wants people that are unstable or who have malintent to have the ability to cause harm to others. That too is reasonable. As for our freedoms, when a parent abuses their child, they lose their rights. When a citizen commits a crime, they lose their freedoms and are incarcerated. In the same way, when someone commits a crime or are mentally unstable, their freedom to bear arms, of course, would likewise be impacted for all of our protection. We can have laws that protect our rights and citizens at the same time. I want to express my appreciation to the board for listening to my concerns at the last meeting regarding the red flag laws. If we approach each other and situations and laws with an open mind, we may grow in understanding rather than division. There are parties in our county that have the sole intent to divide, and I don't believe that is in the best interest of our county, nor does it bring out the best in any of us. I do not think that is the intent of this board, and I hope you will continue to show in your leadership that you represent all of us.
Good evening. My name is Robert Knecht. I live in Vernon Township. My only complaint with this is that I don't understand it. It says unreasonable laws, unreasonable as determined by who determines that? In this country, I think it's the courts. So why do we need this? On the negative side, you run into a situation where the press puts it in Sussex County is going to be a sanctuary state for guns.
It's not on our resolution, the word
I
sanctuary
know,
state
but
or
it's
sanctuary
in the
city.
press.
Are you
Is
saying
that
that
in
the
the resolution?
press will not accurately report this? Is that something new?
Bruce, what's the argument? But, I mean, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm saying, and then where did it come from? It came from Mr. Cheeseman through our esteemed assemblyman, and it's going all over the state. I mean, do we need this stuff?
Yes.
Do we really need this stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think you do. I don't agree. The other thing is I hear a heck of a lot about rights here. And I'm a great believer of rights. But what about responsibility? There are no laws, to my knowledge, and I gave my gun away after I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard somebody downstairs and I thought I had a burglar, and I just about shot my father. And that sort of changed my opinion of stuff. The next month, I gave the gun to a cop, friend of mine in Chicago, my cousin. But that's just me. I mean, if you want to have a gun, you have to do it, that's fine. But that's the way I feel. I just worry about the public relations influence of this folks. You know, I know you mean well, but really, I see this, yeah. But I do appreciate your removing the red flag thing, because I personally have lost 2 close friends to suicide with a firearm, and I have lost, my daughter had a college classmate of hers, remember her wedding party, whose daughter was killed by her 10-year-old brother. So, you need to, I think what we need, and maybe some of the reasonable people here, and they're not reasonable, I suppose. My time?
Just finish, one more sentence.
Well, okay.
Your thought.
What we need is control. Storage. It should be regulated. In Norway, if you want to have a gun, you got to have a safe. It's got to be bolted to the floor, and the cops go around and check it. It's not a bad idea, really. I mean, you look at the crimes. Where the legal? All I'm saying is where the illegal guns come from. Every legal gun started out as a illegal gun, started out as a legal gun. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for the
Thank
time
you for
and the
speaking.
extension, ma'am. I appreciate it.
My name is Alita Corman. I am a resident of Sparta. I'm actually a very new firearms to be owner. I got my
something that I went trick or treating with my cousin. He works full time, so it was something we could do together and fun. And since then, I started looking up as much as I could a lot about rules, and that's actually how I found out about it tonight. And my background is in education. I have 5 teaching certifications in every subject. So I'm a well-educated individual. I'm currently a stay-at-home mother, but I recognize the importance of our ability to bear arms. It's one of the special things about being an American citizen. So I'm here to support this resolution.
Thank you.
Hi. Some of you might remember me from last time. So my name is John.
Mr. Park, can you just speak a little louder, please?
Yeah, better than the complaint I got last time. So I will try.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Park, what is the municipality?
Netcom, Morris County. So the wrong one, unfortunately. But I do work here. So I do agree that someone has control, some that responsibility is probably necessary. However, considering New Jersey is already one of America's most, if not the most stringent in terms of gun control states, I think we're probably there. If you have a gun, I think you do have to let your landlord know. If you don't, you can tell them that. So there's that. For those of us not fortunate enough to be homeowners. The previous speaker touched off on a really interesting note. How the Second Amendment is a pretty integral part of being an American. My parents had a pretty wide canvas to pick where to move to. We're from South Korea. We could have moved to the UK. We could have moved to Poland. We could have moved to Nigeria. But we've been here. We picked actually California, but my dad could not read English back then, so he accidentally picked New York. In retrospect, kind of the same deal either way. So it is definitely a part of being an American. It's almost uniquely American. I really can't think of another country in our tier of development, in our tier of economics, that has our particular sort of firearms culture. I was actually down in Texas just last week. And to use a phrase very poorly translated from Korean from my father, it was like being in another country that happened to speak my own language. And he says that whenever he goes back to Korea.
1 minute.
Because every time he goes back, he's just become so Americanized, home feels like not home for him anymore. Texas felt like home. And New Jersey feels like a foreign country now. Home feels like a country that speaks English. We're feeling home. So I'm really glad to hear this. I really am. I say this as a person who is actively trying to move to Pennsylvania because I'm tired of being homeless. So hopefully, whoever else is here, who is on my side, and whoever is not on my side, I understand this is supposed to be for you guys, but it's also for everybody else here. I hope you guys don't feel as homeless as I do. I hope you guys don't feel as homeless as I felt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sally Gibson. I live in Freeholders. I'm fine with the resolution. I'm pleased that it's general. You compromise, and I support it. But I'm here again to bear witness for those Sussex County people who see no reason for this resolution. If we're doing resolutions, we could do the First Amendment as well. I do see this movement as political and the darling issue of Parker Space and the Tea Party. I already did hear tonight claiming how wonderful it is that all the townships and towns in the county are Second Amendment towns. And I say, what is the point? The point, in my opinion, is to create fear, to separate people. Last time I was here, I felt the rage. I really felt it for the first time. I have been thinking about it a lot since that meeting. And I realize it's not just reading about different opinions, which I do, making sure I read and try to get facts. It's feeling the rage. I don't want to take your guns away. I am for hunting. But regulation of guns is a problem. There are so many shootings upon shootings, I can't remember them all, and my shock of hearing of another has become way too tolerable. Rifles for hunters is not the issue. Assault weapons should only be used by the military. Handguns are the problem, and in my opinion are not needed. I also believe the various town resolutions serve only to divide us. I've always been a liberal, and I've lived here 40 some odd years, plus summers at a local camp when I was a kid. And sometimes I ask, why am I here? Like I said the last time, when I was here, I felt the rage from speakers and from some of the audience.
1 minute.
There was a personal high for me that night, and it became the reason I decided to talk tonight. I've been thinking about the conversation with the couple I sat with that night. We could have stayed silent to one another and clapped for our opposite sides, but we decided, and we ended by talking, and we began to find common ground. It gave me hope. So with your permission, I would like to turn towards my fellow Sussex County folk. I am offering you a small group, I'm thinking maybe 4 to 6 people, with diverse views, to meet maybe 4 times over a period of time at the main branch of the library to talk. We'd start off real easy and see if we can dissolve some of our mutual rage a tiny bit. I put my email on a little yellow sticker back there, and I'm asking you to write me if you'd be interested or you're inquisitive about what this could be like. I'll respond. I would set up the group meeting at the library to chat. Thank you.
Go ahead first. Go ahead.
My name is Barbara Holstein. I'm from Montague. I'm going to read from my phone, just so that I can stay on task. I'm standing here as a mom of a Marine. My daughter took an oath to protect and serve her country and our freedom on January 3rd, 2020. As a single mom for all of her 18 and a half years, I am proud to have raised her with patriotism and knowledge of our freedoms in the Constitution. I taught her and provided her opportunities to learn safe use of firearms and then hunting. We visited Cherry Hill, we've been to Stir and Shoot, we've been on private farms. She can take down a pheasant, I can. She can take down a deer, I can. And I know if someone broke into our home and threatened bodily injury to either one of us, we could take them down too. She earned the highest level expert marksmanship in boot camp. Out of 13 or so of our residents, Sussex County residents, that have gone on to boot camp, she was the only one to attain this level. I believe it is because she has been taught to be around firearms since she could sneeze. Our county needs to send a message to our governor and others who think making more laws, making our law-abiding gun owners and criminals isn't going to stop the crime in our state. Chicago is a testament to that fact. Keep our 2A rights safe in Sussex County by showing support for the Second Amendment resolution. Thank you.
My name is Linda Neary. I'm from Green Township. I was shooting since I was about 10 years old with my dad, who taught me to shoot. And the important thing was that he had passed away since, and I had lost that ability, but my husband had resurrected it again when he had gone shooting. And what I had learned was the importance of gun safety, to know all the rules, to abide by everything. And I really appreciate your support on this if you choose to vote that way, and for the ability for me to stand here and just even express that. And you have a difficult decision, but I hope you. Thank you.
Michael Corso, pastor, Sophia Inclusive Community. I also live in Stillwater. Last time I was here, I gave some information about the red flag laws, and I do appreciate the fact that you took the time to consider them and to not include them in the resolution, so thank you very much for that. I just do wonder if the Founding Fathers knew about the technology that would be in existence in the 1990s and the 2000s, and now in 2020, with rapid-fire weaponry, if they would consider the Second Amendment to be in stone, the way it is in our Constitution right now. If they would think that a musket shot in the 1700s would be equal to a rapid-fire pistol today, or a shotgun, or an AR-15, or any other technically advanced weaponry today. It's something I think about a lot. Sometimes things have to change. Things can't be written in stone. Ideals can be written in stone. But concepts and pragmatic ideas have to change. Things just can't always stay the same. And with technology advances, the ideals and concepts also have to change. And I don't know what the answers are, but the technology that we have before us today with assault weapons and all the rapid-fire weaponry we have today in people's possessions, and the rage that people have, road rage, not only in cars, but people have the rage in their hearts and minds when people disrespect them. That's something we need to think about when we wed together this advanced weaponry and we have this advanced anger in our society. I don't know what the answer is, but we really need to think about that as a society. I thank you for taking out the red flag law, and I really appreciate your time here tonight.
Just before we have any more speakers come up, I want to clarify something.
We wrote the resolution. People keep saying we removed the red flag part. Thank you for removing. It never existed to begin with because we wrote a resolution that matched what the board should agree on. So there was nothing added, omitted. I don't understand where that train of thought is coming from. And when it comes time for our comments, I'll touch on that a little bit more and those. But just to be clear, it wasn't removed nor was it added. We never had a resolution to begin with.
John Connell, Newton.
Matches your tie.
Yeah, pretty good call.
It's accessory.
I really gave a great deal of thought to whether I should appear in the front, but I really do want to congratulate everyone in the room for demonstrating the right to free speech, which is the First Amendment right, of course. And all that I wanted to do was to just recalibrate this conversation just ever so slightly. This is what I think is sort of at stake. Whether it's the Second Amendment, I think there is something sacred about the Constitution and all of those that are in our Bill of Rights. What I like about this conversation, in my opinion, is that it is principle-based. The principles espoused in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are absolutely critical for the continued existence of our democratic republic. Without them, we're going to be in real trouble. I don't think that there's anybody who's going to disagree with that. I'll also say that in times of difficulty, in times of rage, in times of anger, in times of disagreement, we always need to be on guard for the threat of those who abuse power. And so what is it that we, as citizens of the democratic republic, have at our disposal to combat and push against power? Push against power with three things, essentially, offered by our Constitution. The first is the ballot box. We can vote. And if voting does not get us what we need, all right, we then have the soapbox. So you've got the ballot box, you've got the soapbox. You bring those to bear. And when power comes into play and is abused from whatever side, sometimes you have to have a bullet box. And the real point here with this symbolic gesture, I'm saying, well, why do we need this resolution? You know, it probably is not going to be effective at anything. That's not really the point. The point is to keep this conversation about principles, the essential principles that preserve the democratic republic. And it's really about a conversation about this county's position on our sense of the finality of that decision.
1 minute.
When there's a situation that has to do with the abuse of power, which is otherwise expressed as tyranny, we have somewhere to go, which actually makes the conversation about the technology, Pastor, a little less relevant. I don't know that we should all have F-15s in our backyard, okay? That seems silly. There's a limit somewhere. But the technology can be used by those who have power. And that's a problem for all of us. So, and the gentleman here, don't know if he's here, he spoke about the countries that do not have a weapons policy like ours. And those are not free societies. We have more guns than anybody else, and we're still freer than anybody else. And so I think that there is something about that. And so for me, it's really about all of our rights, not just this one. And this is just a symbolic gesture that says we're gonna take a stand on this example about what this country is about. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lou Signorino, West Milford. Tried to wait till everybody that's from Sussex County is able to speak first.
Mr. Signorino, can you please sign in?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
A lot of the liberals that spoke, I certainly don't want to take the blame, but in West Milford, as a councilman for 3 terms and council president 3 times, one of my proudest moments was when West Milford was the first in New Jersey to pass a sanctuary, law-abiding citizen, Second Amendment sanctuary township resolution. I certainly didn't take the taking out part. I can see where you're coming from, and I appreciate those comments. You all have your own resolution that you want to pass, and I think that is a great thing. I think, to me, people say, well, why is it necessary It is symbolic, however, it just reaffirms what we should already know. Our inalienable rights, or inalienable, are not up for negotiations. So your rights can be used for whatever it is that you choose, whether it's for hunting, for protection for your family, but it is a right. If you choose not to want guns, if you do not like guns, it is your right not to exercise that right in keeping guns. But this resolution is symbolic in the way that we are here, those of us that disagree, are here to also protect your right to change your mind. Because if you should change your mind one day, once it is gone, if it should be, it is way too late. As you can see, when certain people get into power, they will jump at the chance to take it away from you. And this is something that has happened throughout history. I'm very proud as an American today, and every day when I see other Americans practicing their rights and their free speech, to proclaim to everyone else that we have these inalienable rights, and this is what makes us American, and we are willing to stand up for it. So while it may not affect the laws, so to speak, the law of the land is already there to protect us and our rights and our ability to own guns for whatever reason you should need to defend yourself or to feed yourself. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for standing up, and I don't want to assume that you're going to support it, although I feel like you are. Just want to say thank you.
Well, my name is Ed Rand. I just wanted to tell you guys that, you know, I'm so glad you guys put forth this resolution, you know, to protect our constitutional rights, you know, and to stand up to state government that's tried to take away what the federal, our forefathers made for us, you know, to keep us free. You know, I just thank you very much, and I hope you guys vote yes on this so bad, because we need this. We need to sit there and we need to stand up for our rights. You know, it's our, you know, this is the Constitution. There's a way for the government to federal government to change the Constitution. It takes, you know, 2/3 states. They could change it if everybody's that passionate about doing this, but they can't. Thank you. But but they can't just decide a state. I said, we're not going to do this. That's it. No, you know, because how many of the amendments are going to fall? Then, you know, right? Then what's left? It goes one after another. So I just want to thank you guys, every one of you guys, and definitely, you know, hope you vote yes on this. I really want to do that. And I just want to touch on one little thing too. I hear a lot of talk about assault weapons, and I hear assault weapons. Assault weapons is a term made up. It's, you know, but on the other hand, if you want to look at an assault weapon and say, okay, well, our forefathers never, well, what do you think a musket was? You know, that was their assault weapon at the time. You know, and the reason why they called it arms and not guns and stuff like that is they knew the technology would change, and they wanted us to have the same advantage as those who were against us. And that's the whole reason for the Second Amendment. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Hampton.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Robert Zapora, and I'm 32 years old. Recently retired veteran. Never been allowed to have a beard. Exciting for me, but excuse me. I'm from Hampton Township.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. It was an honor to serve in the state of New Jersey. I'm also, along with law enforcement, I was a defensive firearms instructor for over 25 years. In the state of New Jersey and for any law enforcement agency across North America, and many branches and all the branches of the military. And I had the honor to get people to be responsible firearms owners and operators. And I would use this little analogy in the beginning of all our classes, and I think I like to use it tonight because sometimes it's what we don't know. I'll start with a little story about a fine assemblyman from Sussex County, who shall be nameless, Parker. He finds himself lost in the desert of southwestern United States. He didn't have any food, he didn't have any water. Days go by, first day, second day. He's getting hungry, he's parched. On the third day, he could barely stand and walk. He rose over a dune and he spotted a bit of a town and an oasis off in the distance, which gave him hope. He mustered the strength to fall down to that town. By the time he hit Main Street, he had enough energy to stand, dying of thirst. He went to the first storefront that he could find. It was the men's haberdashery, a clothing store. He walked in, and the salesman approached him and said, "Sir, you need a tie." The assemblyman was so upset. "I don't need a tie. I've been lost in the desert for almost a week. I need water." And the salesman looked at him and said, "You, sir, you need a tie." The assemblyman was so upset, he turned and he just said, "Can you tell me where the closest restaurant is in town? I need water." The salesman said, "Sure, sir. Out the front door, make a left. 2 storefronts down."
1 minute.
Within about a minute, that young assemblyman returned to the men's clothing store. The salesman said, "Sir, did you find the restaurant?" And that assemblyman said, "Yes, sir, I did. But they wouldn't let me in. I needed a tie." So, firearms has been something within my life for over 32 years, and it continues in training. And it's not always what we know, but sometimes it's what we don't know. So I hope you support it, and if there's any questions, I hope you find the company going to answer. Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to bring it back? Second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Before we go on to our resolution to take an action, I would like to say that personally for myself, I'm not full of hatred, I'm not full of rage or anger, but I am concerned. And I'm not just concerned over my Second Amendment rights, I'm concerned over my free speech and my ability to practice my religion, my faith. And the reason I feel that way is because of the things that I hear coming out of our representatives in Trenton and in Washington. I think that this is a symbolic gesture to show our concern. And as we the people, it is the right thing to do, to speak out, to tell the people in power that these are our concerns, and hopefully they will listen. So to me, that's what this resolution represents. I also want to say that I think you are an amazing group of people because you have shown such a respect for each other. I enjoyed hearing everything that you had to say, your experiences, the things that you had to say and to propose. Very generous of you to do that. Okay, having said that, I'm going to ask for a motion to move our resolution declaring the County of Sussex a Second Amendment lawful gun owner county.
So moved.
Second?
Okay.
Now we have discussion.
We're going to start with the reading of the resolution. So Mr. Kelly, would you please read the resolution?
I will, thank you. The resolution under consideration tonight reads as follows. Whereas the Supreme Court of the United States of America has decided and recognized that the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution confers upon individuals a right to keep and bear arms when necessary for self-defense, and that statutes banning handgun possession in the home violate the Second Amendment. And the citations are the District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus City of Chicago, 2 landmark Supreme Court cases. Second paragraph, whereas the state of New Jersey was the first state to ratify the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution, including Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. And whereas legislation is regularly introduced in the United States Congress and New Jersey State Legislature that could have the effect of unconstitutionally restricting the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens of Sussex County and the state of New Jersey. And whereas the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders maintains its commitment and support of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens of Sussex County and the state of New Jersey to keep and bear arms. And whereas the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders opposes any legislation with provisions that could be interpreted as infringing the rights of law-abiding citizens of Sussex County guaranteed by the Second Amendment and the above decisions of the United States Supreme Court. Now therefore be it resolved by the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders as follows. Number one, as the duly elected representatives of the citizens of Sussex County, the Board of Chosen Freeholders has sworn allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and will continue to oppose any infringements of the rights guaranteed therein. And two, the Board of Chosen Freeholders specifically opposes any infringements upon the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens of Sussex County to keep and to bear arms and will utilize all legal recourse to do so. And three, the Board of Chosen Freeholders hereby declares the County of Sussex to be a Second Amendment lawful gun-owning county. Okay, thank you.
Before we go on, there are two cases that we cited in that resolution. I would just like to review the rulings of those cases. In 2008, in the Heller case, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual the right to possess firearms independent of service in the state militia and to use firearms for traditionally lawful purposes, including self-defense within the home. The other case in 2010 is the McDonald case. And the United States Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guarantees the right of the people to keep and bear arms, applies to the state and local governments as well as the federal government. Those are the two cases that we cited. Okay? I'm going to begin comments with Freeholder Deputy Director Dawn Fantasia.
Thank you. I want to first thank the dozens of residents who reached out to this board via email or letter. Just today we received five sets of correspondence. Jessica Stock from Lafayette, W. Stowe from Lafayette, Shelley Wilcock from Byram, Howard Goodrich from Wantage, Dean Copeland from Hamburg, and of course Dominic Bortelli, who kicked the whole thing off for us. But that's only a few names of the dozens of contacts that we've received, so thank you. I want to begin by saying nobody in this room wants firearms in the hands of criminals or violent offenders. No one wants firearms in the hands of those with serious mental illness or substance abuse issues. I'm a mother, I'm a middle school principal, and do you honestly believe I don't want a safe school? You think I don't want a safe home or a safe community? I think the difference is, though, some people may differ with me on how I believe that we get there. The state is trying to legislate criminal behavior by restricting the rights of law-abiding citizens. 2A is crystal clear, and we cannot rewrite history to serve a political agenda. Not to sound trite, but our founding fathers did not come back from a delightful hunting trip and write 2A. When it was drafted, this was in direct response to government opposition. Oppression. In multiple cases heard before the Supreme Court of the United States, the Bill of Rights has been upheld. The right to keep and bear arms refers to an individual meant for defense and meant for protection. This is not a bill of suggestions, it's not a bill of permissions, it's the Bill of Rights, so it's a moot point to even discuss it beyond that. There is a troubling trend across the state that leads to the erroneous belief that by creating vague and open-ended, restrictive and convoluted state legislation, we will somehow reduce criminal use of firearms. This could not be further from the truth. Governor Murphy was quoted 2 days ago stating that resolutions such as these and hearing the will of the people is a waste of time. Advocating for the rights and freedoms of our constituents will never be a waste of my time, and to suggest otherwise is completely unethical. I don't believe the governor of Virginia thinks that waste of time sentiment thing holds any water anymore. Because I know for a fact that individuals in this room traveled hundreds of miles to support the 2A community in Virginia. I'm looking at them right now. And their presence and voices had a direct impact on that vote this week. So thank you. You know, this sounds awfully familiar when this board challenged the illegal immigrant trust directive passed down from the governor's office. We were told our ballot initiative had no teeth, had no legal recourse, when lo and behold, the federal government stepped in, they heard our voices, and the state is now being challenged in court by the federal government against this unlawful, dangerous, and feckless directive placed on our law enforcement communities by this governor and the state attorney general. I question overall the administration's judgment as they demonstrate selective ethics when picking and choosing which laws they're going to follow. New Jersey has roughly 40 proposed bills in relation to 2A pending. Some are in direct response to clarify prior moneyed unclear legislation. So District 24 legislators of Orahoe, Space, and Worths have their eyes on this to protect legal gun owners, such as the bill that clarifies the type of situations that could constitute reasonably necessary deviations when traveling to and from range with a firearm in your vehicle. Some like the bill to permit an armed individual for security in a house of worship is a step in the right direction in light of what we've seen nationally. Conversely, some bills make no sense whatsoever and set the state up to spend more money that we don't have to argue in the courts what we already know. Phil Murphy is a fan of the catchphrase, quote, common sense gun laws. So riddle me this. Is it common sense to prohibit firearms insurance in the state of New Jersey and then consider a bill that requires the very same insurance you just prohibited? Is it common sense for legislators to reduce magazine capacity to 10 rounds or less, in essence classifying legal gun owners of fairly standard 15-round magazines felons with jail terms and excessive fines? Is it common sense to enact exorbitant costs on hunters and sportsmen who fund the majority of wildlife conservation efforts in the state, and the economically disadvantaged with proposed discriminatory fees? I talked about this at our last meeting. Besides raising fees on gun ownership, Mr. Murphy is seeking an ammunition excise tax of 10% and a firearms excise tax of 2.5%. Draft legislation shows Governor Murphy seeking to raise the cost for handgun purchase permits from $2 to $50. Firearms ID cards from $5 to $100. If you get one of the coveted handgun carry permits from $50 to $400. Retail gun dealer licenses from $50 to $500, and wholesaler manufacturers from $150 to $1,500. So should we interpret that as Mr. Murphy seeking to limit the ability of the economically disadvantaged of lawfully owning a firearm? I think that's a fair interpretation. What we're missing is an educated legislature and an educated populace. There's also a bill pending prohibiting children under the age of 12 to attend gun shows. The same children that have unobstructed, unfettered access to the media, the internet, video games, often highlighting legal use of these weapons. But the authors of this bill think, common sense-wise, that in a controlled environment, with a parent, with an adult, often educational, that this will somehow endanger society. I want to talk about the red flag laws now. From a legal standpoint, the extreme risk protective order, it's flawed because it allows authorities to act on the standard of good cause versus probable cause. We're going to have a little Fourth Amendment refresher here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. So, the state and federal constitutional standard for arrests, stops, searches, and seizures in the United States is probable cause. The language is specified and quite clear. However, in Directive number 19, Guidelines for Extreme Risk Protective Orders, and I quote, and this is public, you can see this at any given time, The standard for the court to issue the temporary extreme risk protective order is that the petitioner establishes, and I quote, good cause to believe that the respondent poses an immediate and present danger of bodily injury to self or others by possessing, purchasing, owning, or receiving a firearm, CNJSA 2C:58-23E. If the court orders the temporary order and the petition, quote, indicates that the respondent owns or possesses any firearm, the act mandates the court shall issue a search warrant. That language does not match the Fourth Amendment that I just read to you. Also, there is a conflict here. There's a notable and direct omission in the Attorney General's directive that our state keeps referencing over and over, where they say, no, the only people that can request an IRPO is family members, somebody who had lived prior in the home. There's a laundry list of things that would classify domestic violence victim. All of these fall under the category for IRPO. However, might I point out that what the courts are using is entirely different than what the Attorney General has released. So, petition for a temporary extreme risk protective order. There are 4 types of civil petitions, and number 3 is the issue. Number 3, other persons who are neither family nor household members nor law enforcement officers may request at a law enforcement agency that a law enforcement officer file a petition with the court for an IRPO. So do not think that that language doesn't exist. It's right here, plain as day. You can find it. Google's your friend, and you will be able to locate that. So I do not believe the duplicitousness coming out of the Attorney General's office to act as if that piece does not exist. It does. To date, Sussex County has 12 temporary orders granted and 6 final orders granted since this law has been enacted. I am sick to death of the common sense this governor's administration prides itself on, when in actuality it's a lack of common sense. I'm fortunate that the majority of our constituents here in Sussex County that we were elected to represent feels very much the same as I do. The speaker, I appreciate you saying to sit and talk and reach a common ground, because that's what I discussed last time as well. As much as we may disagree, thinking that, handguns are not necessary, or that, hunting is the acceptable use in your mind for a handgun. What I would like to see is I would like to see the other side stop villainizing the NRA. I wasn't aware of some of the education programs that the NRA does provide. I myself took a basic pistol class. It was 8 hours long. It was my first introduction into using a firearm of that nature. And I also found out they offer the School Shield program, which as a school administrator was interested to me. It's completely free of cost. It reviews school security, goes over best practices in security, infrastructure, technology, personnel, training, policy. These things we don't hear about when we talk about the NRA. I found that community promotes safety, education, responsibility, and I feel like both sides need to get away from the noise and the extremism. I'd be happy to sit with you. When you said I'd love your email address, because I'd happily sit with you and be part of your group to talk. I think that's really important, because I don't think we're going to get anywhere if we stay completely separate. I think you can tell from my enthusiasm this evening. I feel pretty strongly about what I feel strong about, but I'm also willing to listen. I think if we don't stop butting heads, we're never going to get anywhere. But what I would like to see is the Murphy administration shift some of this energy to curtailing criminal possession and criminal use of firearms and guns that are passed around the community and used in a criminal enterprise. These are the guns that are ravaging our communities, not the guns of legal, law-abiding citizens. I can say that the 2A community will always have my voice, have my support. I support this resolution. It was hard for me to not get in the weeds in the resolution and pepper it with many specifics that a lot of you had sent in. But again, I feel that it was just important that this board support 2A and leave it at that. Make it clear that any further infringements, or as these laws develop and as things happen, that this board is tuned into it and we're aware of what our constituents feel. I think a lot of the current and future legislation is a knee-jerk, fear-based response that's coming out of Trenton right now. and I will always welcome civilized discourse on this topic with the end goal of preserving safety and first and foremost guaranteeing our freedoms. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Sylvia, and I appreciate all the comments that were made tonight regarding this matter, and I can't thank you all enough for coming. And to Sylvia's point, Sussex County always in everybody's mind has a different reputation. Sussex County's reputation tonight is respect, and that's what I saw last night, and I appreciate everyone who's come to the microphone to speak in support or against this. And we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I took an oath to defend and protect the United States Constitution and the individual rights and protections that it guarantees to our residents. I believe the right to bear arms is as fundamental and as essential to maintaining liberty as are the rights of free speech, the free press, freedom of religion, and other protections. I do not believe that preventing criminals and other unfit elements of our society from obtaining a firearm should come at the expense of a law-abiding citizen keeping their individual right to protect themselves, particularly in a county in which not every municipality has their own police department, which has been brought to my attention by quite a few county residents who are concerned about their protection. Some of those people Ms. Fantasia listed before. That's all I have to say on this matter, because I'm just ready to vote on it, to be honest with you. Let's get it over with. Thanks.
After Dawn speaks, there's really not much else to say. Very well thought out and researched as usual. You know, there was just some comments that I want to address because there is a different mentality, there's a different way of thinking. And, you know, growing up here in Sussex County, neither one of my parents had guns. They didn't shoot, they didn't hunt. I had never held a gun. The first day I held a gun was range day at my academy as a Border Patrol agent. And it was interesting having to learn in that environment and realize that if I didn't learn, I wasn't going to have a job soon. But one thing you learn when you're a firearms instructor, I don't know if the gentleman's still here who's an instructor back there, but when you're teaching at the academy, because later on I actually became an instructor and taught that same academy that I went through, and you learn that you work on the people that are really bad shooters and the people that are kind of in the middle that you think are going to pass, you kind of leave them alone because you try and get as many people as you can to pass. Well, I was one of those people in the middle, but I was probably at the lower end of the middle until about a year and a half into my career where I had my first shootout on the border with drug smugglers, and I realized, wow, this is kind of important for me to stay alive. I better learn this a little better. And I spent a lot of time learning my craft. And to me, it was just one of my tools. I got up in the morning, put my wallet, my keys, my gun, it was just something, it was part of my tools. Never thought about it any other way. And I think a lot of people think about it as this evil, scary thing, because that's how it's portrayed. But it's not. It's not if you don't treat it that way. You treat it with respect. And I'll say, you know, people that I know that spend time at the range, they shoot, they're the most safe, respected gun users that you'll ever meet. It's the people that you see on the news in the inner cities that are using those things to kill people, kill each other. That's what's glorified in the media. That's what's put out there. That's what's used to fearmonger. And that's what we have to get past, because people that want to use it to protect themselves and their families, I don't even want to talk about hunting, because to me that's a separate topic. This isn't about hunting. The Second Amendment is about protection. Like Freeholder Fantasia said, you know, the forefathers were not thinking about hunting. They weren't thinking, and they weren't even probably thinking about home protection. They were thinking about protecting their country that they had just fought to create. And to me, we were talking about this. Not to get off on a tangent. There's a show that I started watching, Man in the High Castle. It's about if the Nazis had won and they took over and what it would be like to be in an occupied country. The guy was like, oh, you think about what that's like? And I go, no, that would never happen here. I go, you would never occupy this country because way too many of us have guns and died to protect what we fought for, what people fought for. And to me, that's what it's about. And you can talk about, rapid fire guns or assault rifles, and those are all things the media put out there to scare people. And I don't think about any of it like that. What? Assault rifles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a made-up term.
Oh, okay.
No, it is. I mean, there's a rifle.
And AR-15 is not an assault rifle.
It's not what AR stands for. Again, but that's what's put out there. You talked about technology, and the gentleman said it perfectly. You know, the technology was a musket back then. If you're going to fight or you're going to protect yourself against people that have the same weaponry, you have to have that same weaponry.
How many people can you kill with a musket compared to an AR-15?
How many people can you kill with a bullet?
I'm not looking at how I don't want to kill people. I'm not looking at it like that. But if I have to protect my family, I'll give you for instance. When I was out there with a 6-shooter, because that's what the government issued me, a 6-shooter, and the guy across the river had an AK-47, man, I wish I had a better weapon than that. Same thing, if I'm at my house and I feel like my family, and you know, one of the things was that New Jersey says you shouldn't have a weapon for generalized fear. That's why I qualify to carry my gun. It's not because I think it's my right or my duty anymore. But if I'm somewhere where there's an active shooter and I'm with my family and I don't have that, I would feel terrible that I didn't do my duty to protect my family. I have a generalized fear that a terrorist act could happen. I'm more likely to win the lottery than be somewhere where there's a terrorist act. But I still have that generalized fear. Right or wrong, you can say what you want, but I don't trust the people in Trenton to make common sense gun laws. I don't. New Jersey is still the only state that doesn't recognize the federal law that allows retired law enforcement to carry weapons. The only state that the Attorney General does not recognize that federal law. So, I'm just going to say that the Second Amendment was there for a reason. All the amendments were there for a reason, and I'm not going to question it. I'm going to take an oath. I did take that oath, and I'm going to protect it. I'm going to protect the rights of the citizens of Sussex County to protect themselves. And
I don't know if there's anything left to say. I do want to say that I am one of those people. I'm a life member of the NRA, and it is a great organization, educational organization, and thank you for pointing that out. That people have this misnomer that it's an organization, a bloodthirsty organization. It is not. It's an educational organization. And I've been hunting, not so much these last number of years, but over 30 years. And I'll tell you what, I've been stopped by the Rangers when I came out of the Whittingham, which is down the road, Pheasant, to check that there's a little plug in my shotgun because you're only allowed 3 shotgun shells. And I wonder how many times the gangs in Trenton, because Trenton had a situation where they had 11 shootings on a weekend. I don't know, did anybody say, wait a minute, let me check your gun. I want to see how many bullets you have. The problem is not me. The problem is not these people out there. The problem is the criminal element in New Jersey, in New York, in the major cities, with their guns. It's not the average person. And we are so fearful. Oh my God, we have too many guns. The issue really is the criminal element, not the average person that has a gun, that goes through that background check, that should be catching anybody with mental illness. And that's another issue. But people out here, they all have their guns, they've gone through the background check, and I want to support their right to have their weapons. So I'm in support of this, and I'm ready to vote. Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank everybody, and I do have a few comments. As we all know, scholars, lawyers, courts, and historians have debated the meaning of the Second Amendment since 1789. One side of the debate believes the Second Amendment was only meant to protect well-organized militias. But in 2008, that issue was clarified by the United States Supreme Court landmark Heller decision that held that the Second Amendment meant that individuals had an inherent right to own guns for lawful purposes. The monumental ruling clearly stated that individuals had the right to defend themselves. Today, we cannot take our Second Amendment rights or any other rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution for granted. The rhetoric coming out of Trenton and Washington is alarming at best, and it gives us a true cause for concern. We have to be vigilant because proposals to disarm the population or create burdensome regulations that infringe on our guaranteed rights will deprive individuals the opportunity to protect themselves and to protect their families. The blatant hypocrisy associated with discussions surrounding gun violence is also disturbing. The very elite groups of politicians and celebrities that promote more restrictive gun laws employ private armed guards to protect themselves. Yet they want to restrict the ability of law-abiding citizens to defend themselves, leaving them vulnerable. It is the law-abiding citizens that actually follow the gun laws. It is the law-abiding citizens that we are addressing in our resolution when we declare Sussex County a Second Amendment lawful gun owner county. The lawful gun owner that is referred to is an individual who follows the laws. Law-abiding individuals should not be frustrated by obstacles when trying to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And that's not because I say that, and it's not because some of you say that, but because those individual rights are guaranteed and protected under the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. I believe it is time for we the people to speak up about our concerns and be heard. I took an oath to support the United States Constitution, which includes the Second Amendment, and that is why tonight I am supporting the Freeholders resolution. Thank you. Okay. I guess we need a vote to accept a motion. Yeah, we already have a second, so we need a vote to accept a resolution declaring the County of Sussex a Second Amendment lawful gun owner county. So we can have a roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming. We appreciate being honest and open with us. Believe me, we listened last time to all of your concerns. We took them into account when we wrote this resolution. And as we said, it's symbolic, but it's time that we have to say that we want to protect our Second Amendment rights. And if at any time we feel that we are having our rights infringed upon for our worship and our religion, or for our ability for free speech or anything else that is guaranteed us, we will be here again writing another resolution, okay? So we want to thank you for coming, and we're going to continue on with our meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome to stay. In my head, I oh, in your family, you are.
And also, I want to thank you guys for apologizing and get a little passionate about it, and I appreciate
Thanks so much. Is there a real problem? I'm sorry. You disagree. I'm very sorry.
You told your story that you told the first time you were on
And I said, technology.
Sir, I just want to, I got a question for you. Absolutely.
I think it's a good idea, not just on this issue, but there's other issues we can discuss as well.
So do the and then show up on the first Saturday of the month. Show Okay, we're gonna run. Okay, thank you guys. All right, all set.
Yeah, me too. Guys, thank you for coming up. Thank you.
I was about ready.
No, but I mean, you came up with guys here from Warren.
Yeah, right.
Were you guys there party the other day?
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, because I went down to Warren for that. There's a Facebook thing that Dominic's running over there. All right.
Oh, I can't touch it.
My boss is panicking.
So it's okay. Oh, then you really got
Leave that in there. I'm sorry it was so
That's mine.
Oh, no, she doesn't. I said he gave me all those state I gotta say something. Today Washington, 75th anniversary. I spent It's all right there. Belly Darning, refrigerator, an Italian rifle, EG shot, 69 caliber. That was 17. Yeah, no, they did have 1,500. The whole business is 17. You came out like
yeah, I was like, for 10 minutes there, and I'm like, why did I? I know. No, I spoke right now. None of my cousins. Yeah.
Right, but it says everybody male. I've read it.
White man.
Well, that's the reason. Oh, yeah. I've been fighting things that
Well, you had a flag. I would have helped right. That was
So then I'm wrong there, I'm still disagreeing that assault weapons are good.
So, have you ever been to a country in conflict? So in Somalia, the Muslims would take all the Christians' guns and then the only thing they do is them.
No, they didn't vote on that. No, they just kind of got it, which is why I'm saying.
That's why
My grandfather.
I get it, but actually, the shotgun would double that up and kill more people.
It's not because it's a Jewish Christian country. It's the most popular. That's all of the laws that are written. That's why they're classified. I generally are cosmetic.
Laws are written to prevent danger.
Yeah, but the laws it takes 5 years to address the law and correct the problem. Everyone has to go address the law, but it takes 5 years.
So do we do it the best?
No. Yes, they need a better.
What years? What years? When your father won the Sun College.
When they see that 5 years, they change the law. Just like they did in New York. It's interesting when you talk. They change the law so that now they rewrite it for the same law, but it no longer can go to the courts because it's got a different name or a different number. That's what they did in New York, and now New York is going to find out.
Okay.
They can't do that. So the biggest thing that we can do to stop this stuff from happening is people need to start raising their children properly. We have a mental state. I understand. So the idea that we can completely stop all violence in this country by writing laws. What do you think would happen?
You're not going to take the guns to this country. Nazis going to come and invade. I'd rather have all the people that do follow.
So you have to understand during World War II, the Japanese decided
Chicago Fire. This is her email. I'm gonna go out there and get food.
Yeah, where'd you get food?
Airplane.
Standing room only. Not really.
Then you know we're really hurting if we're on an airplane.
All the presses. Standing room only.
Was?
And now let's.
I told Dr. Connolly to stay because I was going to mention him in my comments, and I didn't realize that was basically just going to be to you, Dr. Connolly.
I didn't either.
Okay.
But you must be applauded because you did the correct
Do we have
thing.
to talk again?
Democratic
Oh,
Republic,
I'm talking.
not a democracy.
Yeah, that's what we are.
I know, but it's lost on many of the families.
I understand.
Okay, next on our agenda is the final adoption resolution. At our regular meeting held on February 5th, 2020, we introduced for first reading the following resolution, which was advertised in the New Jersey Herald issue of February 9th, 2020, together with a notice of public hearing stating it would be held at this meeting at 7 p.m. Okay. I would like a motion authorizing CAP to limit county budget appropriation increase in current year 2020 county budget to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriation, subject to certain exceptions, and to establish an appropriation cap limit. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this resolution? Hearing no one, have a motion to bring it back? So moved. Okay, open it.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now can I have a motion that this resolution be finally adopted and authorize the clerk to advertise this resolution as finally adopted and also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the county administrative centers?
So moved.
Second? Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Well, just, do we have a quick-
Discussion. Yeah, discussion.
Just very quickly, just to be very clear, that it is not this board's intention at all to raise its budget to 3.5%. This is a financial tool that we need in case of an emergency, but we're not going in that direction, and I just think that wasn't conveyed well last time, so I just want to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yard?
Yes.
Okay, we're open to freeholder comments.
I'll
Anthony?
start. Hello, everybody. I mean, you know, I'm just so very.
Excuse me, can you speak?
2 seconds.
Can you speak a little louder, please? I don't think.
2 seconds, because I asked Mr. Connolly to stay, and that was because the other thing that we voted on tonight was a proclamation recognizing February as Career and Technical Education Month, which is a good segue, one, to talk about my visit to Sussex Tech about a week ago, which was amazing. The comments made about what the students are doing was amazing. There was an article written by the Herald covering a project that I just so happened to walk into, which was making new welcome signs for the town of Andover. And that was a business project. There was a marketing team, a carpentry team. There was what materials are we using, communication with the town. That is real world stuff that is being taught within. And as I was in the classroom phone rang, and it was another town asking if they can do the same thing. So they're developing something pretty cool over there. But I also wanted to say that I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Connolly as well with Sussex County Community College, and really encouraged to both you and to Gus the collaboration between your two academic institutions, particularly when it comes on complementing each other's technical education. And I think that will become prevalent in the county. I think the county is well situated to be a hub for technical education, and that's due in no small part to the work that you and the folks over at the college are doing. So I just wanted to thank you for recognizing technical education as a tremendous asset for public education in this county, because you're right, and I think the rewards of that will be high. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I'm glad your hand is looking better than last time. So.
Thank you for both remarks.
That's it. I mean, everything else.
Well said, well said. My turn? And in conclusion, no comments tonight.
Yeah, just South County Technical School will have the 12th annual game of life.
Yeah.
First. Is that what we reported on?
Is that what?
Did you report on it?
I did not. I'm glad you did.
And it is April 1st from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And it's centered around a game that engages the students to educate themselves about community health and resources available to the students and their families. And there's 40 agencies in the county that will participate. And you can stop by at any time and see what's going on. I do want to say, I do want to bring to your attention, I went to a training session on use of Narcan. I brought this.
I was wondering why that was sitting here.
And it was an interesting, program, ran for about an hour and a half. Pretty diverse group of people, because you had older people all the way down to young adults. And some respect I found it to be a little sad, because it's a sign of our times. I would recommend that you go to one of these meetings, because it gives you a whole history. And it goes very quick. It doesn't seem like it's an hour and a half. It goes very quick. And they'll give you a whole history on how we are and where we are today. And one of the things was when we tightened up the rules and regulations and giving the doctors giving narcotics, people went out and looked for other things.
Right.
And it was interesting to sit there and listen to the process and to see how this works. And it's amazing. And you bring somebody back to one of these things, and there's a whole process. And I'm not going to go into it because I'm not an expert. But it was it's interesting, because the person that you're bringing back doesn't realize that they were out. And there's a whole process that you go through when you do that. So I just thought that was really very interesting. And I did meet with Mr. Levinson, who is the health consultant for Sparta. Did I say that right? Is it Sparta or Sparta?
Depends on if you're from Boston.
Okay. All is well.
All right, to piggyback off what Herb said, there is new legislation now in schools. For instance, you have to identify individuals who can administer insulin, who know how to use the defibrillator. There's a whole procedure for that. And now the new upcoming edition is going to be training for individuals to administer Narcan in the schools as well. And even if you have young children, every school is to have someone assigned because of employees, even to be able to administer. So that's one of the new bills and legislation that's coming out of Trenton for educational law, and I just reviewed that with my districts last week.
Are schools required to have Narcan on hand?
It's coming, again, guidance is coming from the state regarding that. I know they were at the level where the state was developing what that would look like in schools, and it's not implemented this school year.
Thank you.
Hasn't been rolled. Okay, as you know from last night, I did say that I met with the Sussex County Arts and Heritage Council and the New Jersey Council on the Arts. I just would like to say that for public purposes. It was a mandatory meeting to ensure that they receive their state funding. They're doing some strategic plan revisions of the Arts and Heritage Council. Update from the Sheriff's Department. There's mold remediation in the building continues. I will not comment on that. I'll defer to Greg if there's anything that he feels in his report, if he feels that he needs to best provide us information, but the remediation for that building continues as of today. I did attend the Franklin Fire Department installation dinner. I would like to say that the youngest fire chief, Kyle Conklin, is 25 years old. And it's the first fire chief in Franklin's history that's that young. So, see, it's a trend. It's the young folks.
Coming up.
Exactly. Fireman of the Year is past Chief Freddie Babcock. Also, the Sussex County Chamber of Commerce business-to-business breakfast I attended with Sylvia at the Lafayette House. I don't know if you have that in your report to talk about. Karen and Quinlan Hospice gave an amazing presentation about the history of their organization and what they offer, the purpose in the county and what their largest fundraiser is that's coming up. So I would ask that you visit their website and support them in their endeavors, because it was really an amazing presentation. Breakfast was sponsored by Thor Labs. We had some new members there that we hadn't seen before. One guy's called the mosquito guy. I thought that was very, and appropriate. The mosquito guy was there. We also had representatives from a couple of the local unions, 825 and 254, to kind of make connections. So it was a nice group, about 200 people, probably over 200 people there. So, and then there's one other thing that I received from one of my towns, from Ogdensburg. And this was a message that came from a councilwoman to me. If you've been reading in the paper, there was that farm that just had the seizure of the animals. And individual was asking if how our prosecutor's office was impacted at all, if they were having to absorb some of the animals in that situation. Were they looking for assistance or placement for somebody to foster some of those animals while they figure out what's happening? And also was asking, is there any way to get in her individual town an allowance? So let's say their town doesn't allow more than 4 bunnies, or whatever their ordinance is there a way for that? I said I couldn't speak to the towns themselves, but that I would ask our administrator if there was any need demonstrated from the prosecutor's office right now. Remember, we had that discussion where some of that animal humane society duties are now the prosecutor's responsibility, and he had made that joke in the meeting about, we can have a goat in the alleyway. So if we have any goats in the alleyway, Ogdensburg wants to help.
Okay,
So,
I anticipate speaking with the prosecutor tomorrow, and I'll mention that when I speak with her.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's what I have, thanks.
Okay, just an update on the coronavirus. It is in the forefront, and the Division of Health reminds everyone that the current risk is the flu. The flu is high right now, so watch out for the flu. There is a total number of confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the United States, and that number is 29 right now. There are no deaths in the United States. The CDC states the immediate health risk is low to residents in the United States, so that's good. I also want to mention that there have been 11 opioid overdose fatalities in the month of January in Sussex County. And I want to remind people that Sussex County has programs to assist anyone who doesn't have insurance and has a need for drug, alcohol recovery services. And there is a phone number that you can call if you need those services. The number is 973-579-0559, extension 1383. All right, next is the approval of the consent agenda from A to F. The Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Sussex has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions and determined that adoption of the said resolutions is in and will further the public interest. If there is any freeholder who would like to remove an item to be considered separately, please do so now. Okay, not hearing any, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda A to F?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
A roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder York?
Yes.
Approval of minutes, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 5th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any concerns or corrections? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay. I need a motion to approve executive session from February 5th, 2020. Second, any corrections? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Just show me abstaining from both.
You're abstaining for both, okay. We have appointments and/or resignations from A to E.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one correction. I was on executive.
Yes, you called in.
Okay, so it's just for the regular meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt said appointments from A to E?
Make the motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just would, not necessarily to discuss, but I'm glad that this is situated. We're adding a member to the Community College Search Committee, and we're also appointing someone to the Board of Trustees that we've discussed. So this now leaves us with one vacancy that we have already specified that we're seeking for somebody with a technical background in Dre's Technical Education, something along those lines. So just to have that. So, roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
Okay, resolutions A to F, could I have a motion to adopt said resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
Okay. Awards of contract change, orders and bids. Can I have a motion to approve contracts A and B?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? A roll call, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
All right, payment of bills, list February 12th, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve the bill list?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
All right, now we have the introduction for first reading of ordinance 20-01.
B.
The 16 transfer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one, okay. You're right. Transfer of 2019 appropriation reserves. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? A roll call vote.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
All right, introduction for first reading of ordinance 20-01, capital ordinance providing for road and bridge improvements, information technology improvements, general capital improvements, and acquisition of non-passenger vehicles and equipment for various county-owned facilities in and for the county of Sussex, state of New Jersey, and appropriating $2,505,951, therefore $932,792 from the county's capital improvement fund, and $1,573,159 from a grant or grants received or expected to be received from the New Jersey Department of Transportation to pay for the cost thereof. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading and authorize the clerk to advertise this ordinance as introduced for first reading, and also post same on bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with a notice of public hearing stating that a hearing will be held on March 11th, 2020 at 6 p.m. prior to final adoption of this ordinance. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a discussion? Have a roll call vote, please.
Freeholder Fantasia?
Yes.
Freeholder Fasano?
Yes.
Freeholder Hertzberg?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
All right, there are no items for this meeting for personnel, so I will turn to administrator.
I have actually a very extensive report this evening. And in conclusion, I would just like to say that as the board is aware, and the two members of the public that were here last night, that most of my time has been spent in finalizing the proposed budget for the county. I appreciate the freeholders' attention and consideration as we went through that at last night's work session. We are working to have the budget prepared for introduction at the board's next meeting in March. And also to just like to acknowledge the Division of Local Government Services, the Local Assistance Bureau, for coming up and making that presentation tonight. Also the board's willingness to have that presentation done, albeit a little bit after the fact. And also like to extend my thanks to the sheriff and his office for the work that was done in bringing that contract services agreement together. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have an extensive report. However, it is in writing. And so it is the promised memo. And all I want to say is I really would encourage everybody to read it and discuss anything with me anytime that you would like. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to open for public session. Just a reminder that comments are limited to 3 minutes, and please state your name and print your name and municipality on the sign-in sheet. Could I have a motion to open, please? So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay, we're open if anyone would like to speak. Okay, Not hearing anything, can I have a motion to bring it back?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Reminders, please check the county's website at www.sussex.newjersey.us for meeting schedules. We have no executive session, so we are open to a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Thank you
I'm
for coming.
surprised, that was, yeah, I was waiting.